Hello, my love, and welcome back. Today we are diving into the juicy topic of genetic tampering and what I believe has taken place on the planet to alter the DNA within human beings and keep us from activating our highest level selves or being able to reach the multidimensional gifts that we have. So take everything I say with a grain of salt. This is my personal belief from things I have studied, things I have researched, things I have experienced in my own healing work, as well as in the assisting of others through quantum healing hypnosis and past life regressions, contacting with ET beings, and everything in between. So this might be out there. This might really resonate with a part of your soul. If it doesn't resonate, leave it. That's fine. And if it does, then I invite you to open up and allow this to continue your search and your expansion into what is your highest truth. So with that said, I was reflecting on this topic right before filming because I was like, where am I going to start with this? And how do you dive into such a topic? And the first thing that came to mind was the lessons from elementary school and junior high and the ways that I, at least in the textbooks I read in the school system, learned about junk DNA. And I remember this was like one of the first moments where I kind of questioned things. And I was a little bit like, okay, everything in our body has a massive purpose. And even if it seems tiny or insignificant, like even down to the smallest cells and the specific parts of the bodies that they're operating in, right? Every single part of us has its divine job, its divine purpose in assisting us and our functioning. So I remember hearing about junk DNA and how there's these parts of our DNA that they feel have no use and zero purpose. And something about that just felt off to me because, like I said, I just thought, how is that possible? If DNA is like the life force of the human body and the genetic makeup of who we are, how can some of it be considered junk? And I never looked into it more necessarily, but it kind of sparked an awareness or a questioning within me around what that means. And as I got older and now I'm in this place where I go, okay, is it that there is truly something within our DNA that literally has no function and we were born with that? In which case that's kind of odd, right? Or is it that we have had genetic tampering in generations way, way, way before us to take offline certain aspects of our genetic makeup and the powerful properties that our DNA possesses? And it's the second option that I personally believe in and lean much more further to regarding genetic tampering. Because when we look at the human body, and the more I've learned about the crystalline architecture and the light body and the auric field and these other aspects of self. So we obviously have the physical body, but we also have mental body, emotional body, energetic body, and it expands far beyond just this third dimensional version of me, right? But when we start looking at the powerful capabilities of what being a soul is, a soul in a human body, then you start to see, I think, that we're far more capable than we've been led to believe. And I personally believe that so much of the schooling system and the indoctrination that has taken place has been to keep humanity small. And in every single way, whether big or subtle, we have been programmed to think that we are not very special and that we're not very powerful, that we're not very capable, that we are not a fractal of God's source incarnated in this physical vessel but with an energetic capacity and a deeply powerful connection to the quantum field where all possibilities for reality exist and where we can co-create incredible positive changes on the planet. I believe there has been a mass suppression of us knowing our divine truth and the divine inheritance, as well as the genetic makeup. And it makes me get really passionate if you can't tell. So when I started looking into this more, and I have had multiple experiences with what we would call ETs or extraterrestrial beings, both seeing things physically with my own eyes, catching footage on my own camera, as well as in meditative states through remote viewing, through quantum healing hypnosis, accessing not only multidimensional versions of myself, but other beings as well, and having conversations with them. And this has shown me more proof of what I just shared regarding the ways in which I believe that we actually had parts of our genetic makeup turned off and even turned down and tampered with to a point that then we stay more stuck and we're more susceptible to stay in those lower levels of programming on the planet, as well as the lower vibrational frequency, as well as being way more susceptible to health issues, disease, the heavy impact of trauma, all of these things. And one of the things I have learned from one of my mentors, and I first studied this with her over 4 years ago, had to do with the diamond sun body and looking at this higher level genetic coding of the human body and seeing that instead of like the 2-strand DNA that we've been taught in school, seeing the angelic 12-strand DNA that was actually part of our original nature, and being able to reactivate parts of our genetic coding so that we can show up in different ways, so that we can heal instantaneously, which I also believe is powerful and part of our energetic connection to source, as well as the physical body and the genetic makeup. But all these different things that we've been taught to kind of think of as impossible or out there, right? And we've been taught to believe that we have this really dense carbon-based DNA, and I believe that that is true. But I also believe that what we were meant to have was the crystalline DNA, and that for many people, as the planetary shifts are taking place, and for those who are doing the deep healing work and clearing out the heavy, dense emotions and traumas and pains that are holding them back, as we start to rid ourselves of those things, we're able to start rising up and activating the crystalline DNA instead of staying stuck in the carbon-based blueprint. So there's so many different ways that we can start to shift and upgrade and rise into these higher levels of who we truly are. And it's in my experience, it's in this work that we start to come back home to the full multidimensional spectrum of all that we are. So I actually don't even know if I've talked about it before in other videos, maybe in tiny little bits here and there, about the power of healing our own physical body and how our consciousness, which is a very creative force, our consciousness is the fullness of who we are, and of course is also a part of God's source, right? Because we are all little fractals of that. Our consciousness has the power to bring massive healing to physical ailments and illnesses and diseases and things that the system wants us to believe we cannot cure, or that we need to rely on something that costs money and keeps us a never-ending buyer, a never-ending source of their income, right? It's this system that is perpetually training the human to give their power away to something outside of themselves and say, you fix me with this thing, even though most of these pills don't actually fix us and don't actually cure anything, right? They just mask the symptoms until we get worse, or until we need something else, or until we stop. So we're taught in so many ways to constantly give this power away. And then we are fed foods that are filled with chemicals and water that is filled with chemicals. We are ingesting, we're putting things on our body that is full of chemicals. So we are constantly adding to the genetic tampering, and I believe continuing to alter and hinder our potential, our highest expression, and our optimum levels of health. So the more that we start to realize this and take the power back into our own hands, again, remembering that you're a conscious co-creator and that you have the power to override anything, and you are so much more powerful than you've ever been taught to believe, we can shift this. It's the exact process that I used to heal my knee after knee surgery without taking any painkillers, and I had zero pain in the process. It was side tangent. I had meniscus repair, but it was extreme, way more extreme than the usual one. So instead of being recovered and walking in a few days or a week, I was bedridden for a full month, and I couldn't walk. I couldn't put any weight on my right leg for 30 days. And I had the prescriptions, I had the things to, or the anesthesiology, the anesthetics. I had the anesthetics for the surgery itself, although at that time I was starting to get into Joe Dispenza. This was back in 2019, and I was kind of wanting to just can I do this with no painkillers and just use the power of my mind to project myself, or not be in this space and send healing while this is taking place, blah, blah, blah. I didn't do that. I didn't believe in myself quite enough at that time. So I had the anesthetic, I had the surgery, and I had expressed a deep concern about the painkillers prior to all of this, because my brother passed away from an allergic reaction to a prescription drug. My dad has had reactions to prescription drugs. So I believe there's a sensitivity in my family, and I don't believe that every single human being on the planet should be prescribed the same thing, because every single human is different and we all have unique sensitivities, or we might react in different ways. So I expressed this ahead of time, but I was still given a specific painkiller after. And I was very resistant to taking it, but everyone around me, nurses, doctors, people, everyone's no, it's fine, don't worry, just take this one in the morning and one in the evening, you'll be fine. And I did that the first day after the surgery, and I was very affected by it, to the point that my whole body slowed down, and I shocked myself, awake, gasping for air, because I believe I was starting, my body was starting to shut down, or I was having some kind of reaction to it. And I woke myself up after being super drowsy and kind of knocked out, gasping for breath. And then I was I'm not taking any more painkillers, nothing, no Tylenol, anything for the next month. And I focused on all the things Joe Dispenza and many of these other amazing humans out there have taught regarding the projection of our consciousness, seeing the cells healing in those specific areas, setting the intention that our body knows what to do. Our body is designed to heal itself when it has the proper environment and the proper support. So I was visualizing everything healing. I had been told by the doctor that I'd be lucky if I was able to do basic exercises and basic movement after. And I refused and rejected that diagnosis, because I was there's no way that I'm going to be just only able to walk from here on out after the healing. Barely able to do yoga, or lucky if you're able to climb a mountain, all these things that had been told to me but I didn't give them access into my mind, my body, my soul. And I was stubborn AF and I held what I wanted to be true, what I wanted to create for myself. And I thought this is the perfect opportunity to experiment with this. And listening to my own self-made meditations at the time, before I had even started the quantum healing hypnosis work, but I had recorded these practices of seeing everything repairing in my knee, seeing that I was able to do things better than I had before the surgery, as if like I had a knee as good as I did when I was a little girl or something, right? It was the process of overriding what could have become a potential reality. And I've done that in other areas of my life. I've helped clients with deep physical healing towards ailments and issues and illnesses that they've had for months, sometimes years, and using the power of quantum healing and hypnosis and the subconscious reprogramming around what they believe to be true, using the power of the intention to send different signals to those areas of their body, and the power of intention to bring the necessary healing to those spaces, to see the desired reality, and to upgrade and shift how their body has been responding their whole life. Upgrading the DNA to see that it's operating in different ways, instead of holding this unconscious belief that we have this junk DNA and we're not really that powerful and we're so disempowered, we're victims in our own lives, programming in the opposite, which is the divine truth that we're powerful creators and that our DNA and our vessels and our subconscious and our energetic field is more powerful than we have ever been taught to believe, and anchoring that in, sending that into these spaces, and instantaneously relieving pain, getting diagnoses after, and all the symptoms are gone, or the illness is gone, or the thing that doctors said they'd have forever has been healed and cured. So we have so much power within ourselves, but oftentimes we don't use it, or we don't believe in it. And this is so much of why I created the Upgrade Bundle, which is my quantum healing hypnosis course, specifically around activating your DNA, upgrading from the carbon to the crystalline structure. When we do this, we also allow ourselves to access those higher dimensional realities and those realms and those higher level gifts. Because as I said at the beginning of this, when we're stuck in the carbon or the 3D and the very dense and the places where trauma can be held more easily, or where negative vibrations and entities can attach and hold us down, as we start clearing that stuff out, literally from a cellular level, we allow ourselves to rise upwards and become more and more light, more and more of our true energetic essence as well. And the physical body shifts alongside to house that container. So we start to raise upwards, and this is where you're able to see or feel or sense or know in a higher capacity and access those higher levels of realms, those higher aspects of yourself that currently exist in multiple dimensions, and so much more. So Upgrade is the place where I teach all of this, and it's really for women who have already done some work in quantum healing, in the subconscious reprogramming. You've already started to shift things, and this is just about upgrading you to the next level and connecting even deeper to that divine architecture and your divine blueprint as a soul here on earth right now. So there's so many powerful things within it. I've linked it in the description down below if you want to check it out. And I would love to support you on the inside of Upgrade if this feels resonant to you and like the time for you to do this work in your life. And to finish this off, I just want to summarize all of this by saying that, and I know I've already said this so many times in this video, but you're so much more powerful than you know. So if something feels limiting to you, and if something feels constricting to you, if it feels like misaligned with your soul, the same way that that science class, that biology class in, I want to say, well, actually I have multiple ones coming to mind, but whatever. The biology class that I was in, where I remember learning about junk DNA, and it didn't sit right. It felt limited and constricted, and it felt like, why? Like this, just everything about it, I get like bad goosebumps, not the good ones. It's like, oh, this just feels kind of icky and small. That is showing you that this is not the highest level of truth. It's showing you through its lack of resonance in your field or even in your body that this is not meant for you, and it's not of your highest good. So when we notice that these things limit or constrict or make us small, or that the never-ending cycle of outsourcing our power and relying on pharmaceuticals or authority and experts to tell us that they know what's best for us, and we're constantly spending our dollars and looping in these cycles or ingesting things that are not supportive to our body, right? Any of those things that feel like they're misaligned to you, it's time to fully honor your higher calling and the higher truth that is coming through to you and speaking through to you from your higher self, that's saying, no, this doesn't resonate for a reason. Like, follow the pull to the things that feel expansive and that open you up and that call you forward and raise you higher, because that is proof, that is evidence of what you're actually meant for, and that there is something so much bigger than potentially that current experience, that current physical reality or illness, that current limited confine that you find yourself in. And you're being invited to break out of that box and expand so much bigger. So allow yourself to open up to that. Allow yourself to start trusting the things that make you feel limitless and remind you of the bigger level truth of who you are and how powerful your consciousness is at creating. And if you're ready to upgrade, then click the link in the description. I would love to support you, and I'm so excited to share these trainings, these practices, these quantum healing hypnosis recordings and activations with you so that you can do this and unlock the full potential that is literally in your DNA, as well as in your mind, your body, your soul, and step fully into that, really allowing yourself to anchor in your higher self here in the 3D, connecting to those higher dimensional aspects and gifts and levels of your consciousness that are available to you, and pulling them down here, because when we start doing that, the world around us shifts very quickly. And as we anchor in those higher level frequencies, that power of the consciousness and the deep inner knowing, and we start creating from that place, we're all building so much quicker to the reality that I believe Earth was always meant for. So it's a beautiful time. It's incredible work to do. I'm sending you so much love. Thank you for being here with me, and I will see you again soon.